Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to complete our block for our jelly roll quilt. I've made 5 groupings, and in each grouping there were 8 different strips. Each one of my groupings started with a red and ended with a yellow. So I'm going to turn the camera so that you can see exactly what I'm doing, and we're going to put the blocks together. So I've got my jelly roll strip, and the first thing I'm going to do is trim up my edge. You can see here that it's all different lengths, so I need one solid length. So what I'm going to do is line it up on my board so that my edge is straight, and I'm just going to trim it off. Once I've trimmed that off, I'm going to grab my big cutting board, my largest cutting board, and I'm going to cut this into a square. Now my jelly roll strip is, let's see, how big is it exactly? It is 16.5 inches long this way. So I'm going to cut it to be a square, so I'm going to cut it 16.5 inches wide. Measure, line it up on my ruler, make sure I'm good and square, and I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to get 2 of these out of this. So there's my first one, and here comes my second one. This piece I'm going to save. I've got 5 of them, and I bet you I can make a baby quilt for my granddaughter's baby. So I've also cut a square that's 16.5 inches square out of my background fabric that I had shown you before. This is a white, and the brand of it is Robert Kaufman's Prima Cotton. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Frixion pen, and I'm going to draw a line from the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to move this down a little bit so that you can see better, all the way to the lower right-hand corner. I'm going to draw a diagonal line. And I'm going to do that on both pieces of my fabric. My next step is I'm going to line this up with my block. And how I've done all of my blocks is I have had my red strip on the bottom, my yellow strip on the top, and my diagonal line again goes from the upper left-hand corner to the lower right-hand corner. I'm going to now pin these 2 pieces together, and then I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch, a real scant 1/4 inch on each side of this drawn line. Once I've done that, I will be back to show you the next step. I've sewn a 1/4 inch on each side of my line, and now I'm going to cut it in half on my drawn line. and then I'm going to take it over to the ironing board, and I'm going to set my seam first, then I'm going to press it open to the background fabric. So once I've done that, I will be back. Now is when the real fun gets started. I've made sure that all my blocks are the same size, and they are. They're all 16 inches square, because remember we cut them at 16 and a half, and we've got our seams. So now what I'm going to do is just play around with laying it out in all different ways. And here's the first, and I will be back again in a minute with another way. So there's another way, and I'm going to stop the camera and I'm going to do another way. So I'll be back again. Alright, and here's another way to look at it. I'm really not certain which way I want it yet. I do know that I need a border. At this point, the quilt is approximately 64 by 80. So it's a good twin size quilt. I think I'm going to add probably a 4-inch wide border. But in the meantime, I wanted you to see where I was at with this quilt. I had been asked to show my ironing board. Here you can see it. What it is it's a piece of 1/2-inch plywood, and it's covered with fabric, and then underneath it is cotton batting to give it a little bit of padding. You wouldn't want to use polyester on it, but cotton does work, and it just sits on top of 2 sets of stacking bins, and it seems to be the perfect height for me, and I really do like it. Someday I do hope to change it to something similar to my cutting table. Here you can see my cutting table. It's quite a mess right this second. I've been busy. So it has really nice drawers that I put all my stuff in, and I really, really do like that. So someday I'll get another set of kitchen-based cabinets and use that for my big board, ironing board. It's a pretty good size. The next time I do it, I make one, I'll probably make it a little bit deeper and a little bit wider. I do a lot of pressing of 108-inch wide fabric, and it'd be really nice to be able to do it in 2 swipes. Right now I have to do it in 3. So there's my big board. Hi, I hope you've enjoyed seeing how I put the block together. I am going to put the quilt top together, and then I'm going to decide exactly how I'm going to do borders for it, because I really do think that it needs borders. I do have the entire line of fat quarters, so I could cut these up and make a border out of this, but I'm not certain that I want to do that. So what I've done at this point is I had 1 jelly roll, and I grouped the jelly rolls in 5 different groupings of 8 strips each, with a red and a yellow consistently at each end. Then I took 2.5 yards of background fabric. I made squares, then sewed the squares diagonally and made 2 half square triangles, and then laid out the quilt. I showed you a couple of different ways to lay the quilt out. I'm certain that there are a whole lot more different ways to do it, but that's where I'm at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and get my quilt put together. Once I get the quilt put together, I think I'm going to head back off to the quilt shop where I got the jelly roll from to begin with, and see what they've got left in that line to make a border. So I'll either buy additional fabric for the border, or I will use my fat quarter bundle. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Please leave a comment, any questions that you may have, depending upon what you're watching me on. If it's on an iPad or a regular computer, there's a subscribe button either to your right, or there's a subscribe button below. Please do subscribe and tell your friends all about me. I would like to thank you for watching, and please check back again. Thanks. Bye. The quilt top has been put together. Here's the layout that I decided on, so you can see it.